Good afternoon and welcome to our 5 at 5 Tips for Caregivers. I'm Karen Keating with the Brain Injury Association, North Carolina, and I also want to say Happy Brain Injury Awareness Month. Susan Fuel, my coworker, is here, and she has invited a guest to share their story with us this evening. Susan, who do we have today?
We have Lori Rogers, who is going to be talking to us as a mom who has provided care for her son who had a brain injury. She has also written a book called Defying Gravity, Rising Above Severe Brain Injury, Traumatic Brain Injury.
Lori, we're anxious to hear your story. I too have a son who sustained a traumatic brain injury in a car accident. Thank you for being willing to share your story, and we look forward to hearing how you started on this journey.
David was in the Air Force, and he was stationed in Germany, and he was in a automobile accident on a secondary road. And on a morning in May 26, 2009, there was a light rain that bubbled up the oil that they use in their surfacing material, and it caused him to spin out. Before he could recover his spin out, he was T-boned by a second car, and that car collapsed his car pretty much to smaller than his hip width, and the roof came down on his head. So he had a severe traumatic brain injury, and we were called by his command to come to Germany. Their expectation was that we would say goodbye. We went in, and he had had a double craniotomy. They had done them separately as needed. And the medical team certainly didn't hold out hope that they would help. And they really actually argued with their superior against doing the double craniotomy. So David was very severely injured, and it wasn't just a brain injury. He had a shattered pelvis. His rib cage was also broken up, and he had a punctured lung. I think it was his right lung. So when we came into ICU, he was unconscious, obviously very swollen, very broken up, and we were being communicated with from the doctor through a translator. And even the translator argued with the doctor, not that she didn't want to translate certain things to us. So that's the situation we walked into. And we had been flown. I think I got there very close to within 48 hours. I keep remembering. That's how we came to be caregivers over David. I remained with his bedside in Germany 4 months, 1 month with my husband, and then he returned to take over. We had 4 school-age children still at home at the time, and he went back to work and also went back to now single parenting those 4 children, which we'd never done. So there was a lot of changes that happened. I was away from the family for a total of 7 months, because after 4 months, David was transported to Richmond, Virginia. And we chose them because they were the flagship of the brain injury program at the Veterans Administration hospitals. We had been residents of Cleveland, Ohio, and they have a secondary unit, but we didn't feel that it was at a level that would care for David's needs. We also were told he wouldn't ever become conscious. He would never, let's just put a never in front of every question you might have that he might do. And within coming into the States at Walter Reed Hospital, he began communicating he kicked the doctor to get her attention, and when she was talking about him, and I would ask him if he wanted to watch the program we were watching on, and the TV being on a swing arm, he would hit it if he didn't want it. And so he was starting to reach out of his body, still not speaking. We got to Richmond in McGuire. It had a fabulous polytrauma program, the emergent consciousness program, and within a month or so, he was declared conscious. And he was starting to, as he progressed, and the book covers this period of time, he began moving his wheelchair himself, communicating with a keyboard, also with facial expressions and vocalizing, but not speaking. And after 15 months after the accident, and it took that long because we came to Richmond, looked for a house to adapt, didn't find one that would accommodate the size of our family and David's needs. So we bought a house and built it from the ground up. I'm still residing in that home. So it's been a very interesting journey, learning about brain injury, learning about disability just in general, and also navigating all of the systems that are designed to care for people, and finding out that, well, as I put it to the doctors in the Veterans Administration, they had a seminar and I was on a panel or something. And I said, we can't just save people's lives with brain injury. We have to figure out how to give them a quality of life that's worth saving. And that has been my mission, specifically for David. And now I'm moving. David passed away in October last year. He had, by the way, before he passed away, in the first 5 years, he did start walking without a walker. He was beginning to form words and speak with his voice. And he was doing everything they said he wouldn't do, including rock climbing. And yeah. And the only thing that he did was that at that point he got an infection somehow, and it took 2 years to abate the infection, and that was then the beginning of a 5-year decline, 6-year decline in his brain and in his health. And he passed away in October last year. I do think that the isolation of COVID was not a good thing for him, nor was the fact that all rehabilitative services were cut off for such a long period of time for him, and trying to get them reestablished, that he may have declined in part because of those. When I got them restarted, he was doing very well. And the Friday before he had a seizure, which finally took his life, he was walking again with a walker, but he was pushing it, and it was under his power.
This
That's
point is something we can come back to at a later time, but
Yes.
but Laura had also pointed out to me that if her son had been married with children, then his service to our country would have supported that wife and children in their effort to help him with his recovery. But because he did not have a wife and children, his parents and his siblings took on that care, but they did not get any help from the government or from his service. But Lori, it's been some time now. Looking back, what do you wish you had known back then?
Well, I wish I had known that the services and the expectations on David, the services for David and the expectations on David were very limited to mild and maybe even mildly moderate, moderately mild brain injury. That he was expected to meet a timeline that was impossible for someone with the severe brain injury, and yet here he met those over a longer period of time. And I was constantly fighting for resources and rehabilitative services and things like that, because he wasn't meeting their expectations of a timeline. That was one thing. I'm also a very out of the box thinker. So if a crayon works, a big crayon works in someone's hand and they're 20 years old, I'm not going to give them a little crayon and expect them not to break it. I think that that's a very simplistic explanation, but that's exactly how many services and many medications and many devices are determined for a person. They think, well, he's not under this category of injury or disease process, and therefore he doesn't qualify for this, that, or the other. I wonder how many other things that I can think of, I could spend an hour just talking about those. That if he had been autistic, he could have tried this. If he had been dyslexic, he could have tried that. If he had been a stroke victim, he could have tried something else. But none of them were available to him because he didn't have that specific disease process going on in his system. And I think that that's across the board, not just a military situation. And I think that that's something that needs to change, specifically because we are saving the lives of people with severe traumatic brain injury and severe acquired brain injuries, and they are showing recovery. So why are we denying them the tools that they could have that would improve the quality of their life?
Right, and funding is such a big issue. So Lori, would you have advice for anybody others on a similar journey to you?
Just fight like a rabid chihuahua for everything. That's literally what I would say. And unfortunately, that means you're going to get exhausted. And you do need to take the time, because in some ways, I know that I have been a repellent to people in my life, because I do fight like a rabid chihuahua, and I do have a very strong opinion of what's going on. But we need to build a nice support system behind us, a strong support system, one that even if they haven't experienced it, they can understand that it could happen to them, and that I need that. There was little opportunities for respite, including opportunities for me to make an appointment for my own health care, and things like that. So, and then the other thing I would do is try to find ways to take 10 minutes several times a day to take care of yourself. Nothing's going to really happen in 10 minutes for the most part. There were days when I wrote lists of things to do, and the first thing on the list was remember to brush your teeth, because there's just so much consumption of time, energy, and I was using my brain for two people at the same time. And that is something that you need to take time to just slow down, give your brain a rest, and know that nothing is going to happen in 5 to 10 minutes. And if something does happen tomorrow, nothing's going to happen in that 5 to 10 minutes. You'll figure out how to make it all safe. If David stayed in his bed 10 minutes longer in the morning, instead of me rushing around, trying to get him up, get him clean, get him fed, I could have done a little more stuff, self-care. The other thing that is frustrating for me is that self-care is self-care. And sometimes the caregiver needs to find someone, and this is part of building your team. You need to find someone that will take care of you once in a while, because every human needs that feeling that they're supported, that they're cared for by other people. It can't be, I did make the mistake of letting all of my family have their own life. And I feel now I have no David to take care of, and I am learning to take care of myself more. I should have spent more time letting them do more, and or having them interact more, or taking time more with me as their mother. Well, within a month of David's death, I did make every doctor's appointment that I had missed for the last 11 years. And I went to I found a primary care doctor that I appreciate. I told him I haven't had any of these tests for years because of my caregiving. And I started hiking. I love being outdoors. I have figured out how to make friends enough to have 2 hiking partners that are not really related to each other. They're starting to hike together, but I hiked with one at one time and one at the other time, and I was getting out for 2 hikes a week, which was really nice out in the outdoors. Of course, the weather jumped into that thought. I am trying to pick up yoga, which is a little more meditative and can be done individually. I believe that every day a caregiver puts themselves under so much pressure and second guessing and decision making that is critical a lot of times, that they need to wake up. They need to have a mirror in a place where they can look at themselves, smile, and say, I like you. You're doing the best you can. because there's not always another person that will do that.